Hi there, and welcome to the presentation Diving Deeper. My name is Michelle Dowker. I'm a naturopathic doctor turned transformation facilitator, and I'll explain exactly what that means when I introduce myself formally in the presentation. This presentation is for you if you're looking for things beyond diet to help you get next level results, especially if you've been struggling, plateauing, if you've gotten yourself to a certain level with benefits from your diet and you know that there's something more that you're missing. This is the more. I got myself to a certain level with dietary changes, and through my own experience as a naturopathic doctor and my own personal journey, I discovered that this is the piece of the puzzle to help you dive deeper past what diet can deliver. And so I hope this presentation gives you some insights to look further and dive deeper so that you can get your next level results as well. Welcome to Diving Deeper: How to Get Next Level Results Beyond What Diet and Lifestyle Can Deliver. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for taking the time today to watch this presentation. If you're here, you've likely tried or are considering a dietary change like low carb, keto, and even the carnivore diet. Likely you want to manage things like weight, your metabolic health, or chronic illness, symptoms like autoimmune, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue. This is actually my specialty and my special focus when I talk about this information and when I work with my clients, and you'll understand why in a minute when I introduce myself. So this presentation will be really helpful for you if you've been following one of these therapeutic diets, low carb, keto, carnivore, and maybe you're feeling stuck, stalled, or plateaued. You're not getting the results that you expected, or you're not getting any results at all. You might have a sense that there's more to look at than just diet, and you'd like to learn about that. And maybe you have a health concern or chronic illness and would like to learn how to better manage your symptoms. So today I'm going to share with you what key thing to consider when you dive deeper than diet so that you can achieve what I call next level results. And you'll understand what that means a little later on. I'm also going to share with you the stages of healing and how to determine where you are within the stages, clarity on how to achieve better results from your diet, and this information could very well be your missing piece of the puzzle, especially if you've been stuck. So before I get into it, I want to introduce myself so you know who I am and why I'm talking about this. So my name is Michelle Dowker. I'm a naturopathic doctor turned transformation facilitator. And what on earth does that mean, right? I'll explain a little bit about my journey and you'll get an understanding about why I've changed my title. So I myself have autoimmune condition and endometriosis. And it was a major flare-up in my health conditions that sent me on my own path of struggle. I was severely debilitated to the point of being pretty much bedbound for several months. And I had tried everything that I could think of using my knowledge as a naturopathic doctor, all the way up to the autoimmune paleo protocol, which is a dietary protocol, which is very, very strict. It wasn't helping and I was getting worse. And I happened to stumble across the carnivore diet, which is a meat-only diet, and it actually helped me get back on my feet within days. It was like a miracle. It really opened my eyes and made me question everything that I had learned about nutrition, health as a naturopathic doctor, and it got me to look deeper than what I had learned in school. So at first I became a very strong advocate of the carnivore diet to help with autoimmune symptoms as it helped me. And I was a very strict carnivore for several months, but it only got me so far. And so I started to look into following supplement protocols to heal my gut, to heal my immune system, to heal my hormones. And it helped a little bit more, but I still wasn't feeling 100%. And I wasn't able to reintroduce any foods. Anytime I tried, I would be sick for days. At that point, I felt like I was tied to following carnivore for the rest of my life. Although I was so much better, I wasn't 100%. And it wasn't until I started to really do some reflecting and realizing that the reason why my condition had gotten so bad was because I had gone through a series of extreme stressors in my life. I had moved across the country to an area of Canada that doesn't speak any English at all. And trying to get used to this change, this big move, trying to start a new clinic from scratch as a naturopathic doctor in a new language. And my mother fell sick with terminal cancer and passed away just a few short months later. And it was all too much for my nervous system to handle. And that's what stimulated the flare. Really reflecting on the fact that stress is a huge trigger, and you're going to understand why as I talk about this in this presentation, doing my own work to help to heal my emotions, my nervous system, my stress response, and unresolved emotions and traumas that I had been holding around with me that had already been putting pressure on my nervous system. That caused me to not be able to manage those acute stressors as well because I was already chronically stressed from these unresolved emotions. And when I did that, everything got so much better. After all the dietary changes and all the supplements, once I did this emotional healing work, my health got better. I felt better. And I was able to reintroduce foods again when every attempt was futile before. And this made me really realize that there was something to this and started to guide my own clients through this journey of transforming their emotions and transforming their relationships with themselves and transforming their lives. And that was the piece of the puzzle for them that gave them their health back when they had been trying all the diets, including low-carb, keto, and most often carnivore, and they were still not seeing all the results that they wanted. And that's why I've changed my title from Naturopathic Doctor to Transformation Facilitator, because that's what I do now, is facilitate the people who have tried everything already to try to get control of their mystery symptoms. And once we transform that missing piece of the puzzle, everything turns around. And so you're going to learn all about that today. And to start with, I want to give you some context so you understand exactly where I was in the stages of healing and where I got to, and help you understand where you are so that you can see how far you've come and how much is left. So 4 stages of healing. The first stage, I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you've probably already passed the stage, but it's important to learn about. Stage 1 is based on symptom management. And this stage, the mindset is the body is viewed as something that's broken and needs to be fixed. Oftentimes, somebody who is in stage 1 feels like a victim of circumstance, feels like things are happening to us. If they're dealing with a chronic illness, they believe that their illness and their symptoms are happening to them, and they have no control over the situation. Oftentimes, someone in stage 1 is looking for someone to fix them. Oftentimes, they're going to the medical system, looking for surgeries and medications to try to fix their situation. Now, stage 1 can be very helpful, especially at the beginning, to reduce overwhelm and that burden that they're feeling. And this is real, especially when someone is dealing with a newly diagnosed condition, whether it be a metabolic issue, whether it be a chronic illness, like autoimmune or endometriosis. We can feel very overwhelmed, and we can feel burdened by all this new information and not knowing what to do. And so looking outside of ourselves for someone to help us can be very helpful to help bring us hope. However, if you stay too long in this stage, what happens is we have a tendency to lose our sense of agency. And what sense of agency means is that feeling that we have control over ourselves and our situation. And when we lose that, we can develop despair and hopelessness. And scientific studies have shown that people who lack this sense of agency are less responsive to treatments. One particular study was looking at women with endometriosis, and if they felt like they had no control over their body and their health and their situation, they were less likely to be responsive to any type of medical treatment that was given. And so that's important. It's important to know that stage 1 is where you start on the journey, but it's important to keep moving forward. And so stage 2 is the next stage in the journey. Stage 2 is all about physiology regulation. So, for example, making sure that your blood work is homeostatic or balanced, right? All the different things in your blood that are markers for how different physiological functions are working in your body, and the biochemistry of your body is in balance. That's really important. This is what stage 2 is all about. With stage 2, there is a discovery that external factors can improve our situation. So some very common examples here are diet and lifestyle and natural supplements. So when you make a dietary change, you start to realize that you can start to improve how you feel by changing what you eat. This is huge. And if you're here watching this, then you've already come to realize, or you're starting to discover, that making dietary changes can absolutely be an important factor in helping you to regulate your body physiology and your biochemistry and help you feel better. Oftentimes in this stage, we look to experts to tell us what to eat and what to take, especially things like natural supplements or potentially medications. This stage helps us to feel in control of our body and health, especially compared to stage 1, where we felt like we had no control over our body and our situation, right? We felt like everything was happening to us. When we start to realize that if we start to change and adjust variables around us, those external factors, so the things that we're putting in our body, the things that we're doing, our lifestyle choices, that we can control our health outcomes. And this is very empowering. And so a lot of us in this position, especially when we discover things like low carb and keto and carnivore, and if we've been feeling so unwell before, or if we've struggled with our weight or our metabolism or our metabolic health before, and we saw such drastic improvements by changing our diet and making these changes, we feel like this is all we need, that this is the pinnacle, that we just need to change your diet and everything gets better. Now, don't get me wrong, diet and lifestyle is important. What you put in your body is important, right? If you're putting inflammatory foods in your body and nutrient deplete foods in your body, it's going to affect your body biochemistry. It's not going to work as well. You need those nutrients. You need that biochemical information in order for your physiology to work properly. So diet is absolutely important. It's an important stage to go through to regulate your physiological processes and your body physiology, your blood work, all of these things. You can't bypass this stage. It can make a huge difference. However, it's not everything. And this is what this presentation is all about. There's deeper things to take a look at that can get you even better results. And often, diet will only take us so far, and it can make us feel fantastic. For some people, they might actually feel like that's all they need. But if you're watching this presentation, you've probably already come to realize that diet's been really helpful, but maybe it's not everything. And the reason for that is there is a stage 3. Stage 3 is all about nervous system and emotional regulation. When you enter this stage, you realize that the internal emotional environment has an impact on physical state. Your internal emotional terrain has a huge impact on your nervous system function. And I'm going to talk more about this. You're going to understand what this internal emotional terrain is. and how we relate to ourselves, treat ourselves, and how we manage our thoughts, emotions, and how we see the world. All of this is part of your internal emotional terrain, and all of this affects your nervous system function. And your nervous system function then impacts your body physiology. So all the things in level 2, your body physiology, your biochemistry, is actually impacted by the state of your nervous system. And your nervous system is impacted by your internal emotional terrain. So to summarize stage 3, because I know some of you might understand this and already be here or just entering, and some people might not have considered this at all. We're all at different parts and stages of our healing journey. So I just want to summarize for those of you who might not be familiar with this. The body is a reflection of the internal emotional environment, the physical body. And what's most important here is our relationship with ourselves. And I'm going to explain this in a little bit as well, so you understand why I say this. Our relationship with ourselves is the foundation of everything, from nervous system function to relationships with others, and all of the life events in our lives, all is rooted in our relationship with ourselves. And our relationship with ourselves started during our developmental years. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And so this relationship with ourselves, our inner emotional terrain, our beliefs, our perceptions, all of it impacts nervous system function, which impacts body physiology. An analogy to explain this is the nervous system is like the bridge between your body physiology and your emotional inner terrain. And so that nervous system, if it's imbalanced, you're going to have an imbalanced body physiology, and you're going to have an imbalanced inner emotional terrain. If you have an imbalanced inner emotional terrain and an imbalanced relationship with yourself, that's going to impact your nervous system. And then your nervous system being imbalanced is going to impact your body physiology. It's all connected. And so now I'm going to go over stage 4. Now, to point out that stage 4 is actually fairly rare in society so far. You may or may not actually understand the concepts that I'll explain here in stage 4, depending on where you are on your healing journey. When you enter stage 4, you get the realization that we have not only control over our internal world, which is stage 3, but we have control over everything around us. We understand the interconnectedness of all things. What that means is you understand how connected we all truly are. I am you and you are me. And so to truly heal the world, I must heal myself. And when I do, that's how I can heal you. And so terms like connected consciousness and spiritual growth come in here. And stage 4, there's a real stepping up to your purpose and mission and humanity in pure authenticity. Your true authentic self, your truth. You're not hiding anymore. You're not trying to be someone that you're not. You're truly connected with who you are at your core. And you're expressing that in order to fulfill the true purpose and mission to help heal humanity. This is true freedom in life. It's beautiful. I'm trying to explain it in words, but I can't even say that I've mastered stage 4 yet. This is a lifelong process that is very rare to see a whole lot of people that have mastered stage 4. But it's getting there. We're getting there. More and more people are stepping into stage 4, and that's beautiful. Now, the thing is that problems can arise if stage 3 was bypassed. So just as I had mentioned how stage 2 is not everything, but it's important. You need to regulate your body physiology first. You need to be looking at your dietary choices and your lifestyle as a foundation to start to regulate your health and your body. And then you move into, stage 3, which is the emotional regulation and the nervous system regulation that takes you to that next level. Now, just as stage 2 is important before you enter stage 3, because if you're trying to manage your emotions, but you have a really crappy diet, it's going to be really hard to manage your emotions because your diet's going to affect your body physiology, which is actually going to affect your emotions, right? Because that nervous system is the bridge. That's why going through the stages of healing in order is important. Now, the reason why I mention this is there are some people out there who are on this path of spiritual enlightenment, but they've done what's called spiritual bypassing. And so they've actually not really fully worked on stage 3, especially healing that inner emotional terrain and their relationship with themselves. And they dive straight into stage 4 of that connected consciousness of connecting themselves to the outer world, but they haven't actually healed their inner world first. And what actually can happen is sometimes people who try to do this, because it's not easy to look at ourselves and do that inner work. But what happens is sometimes when people try to do this, they can end up with issues like dissociation, loss of identity. It can actually lead people to experiencing things like reality breaks, or extreme anxiety, or manic episodes, or extreme depression. And so that's why it's important to follow these stages in order. So these are the 4 stages. Which stage are you? And I'm going to go over quickly the summary of the stages so that you can determine where you are, which stage, and it's possible to be between stages, going from one stage to another. And there's also entry level, intermediate, and mastery of each stage. Say, for example, just entering stage 2, you're just starting to explore what dietary changes might look like. And maybe you're just starting to look at what maybe cutting sugar out from your beverages might look like, versus mastery of stage 2, someone who's following the carnivore diet, for example. So stage 1 is that belief that I'm broken and need to be fixed, and someone needs to come and help me and fix me. Stage 2, there's this realization that I can control my situation by changing my external environment, most commonly through diet. And it's very common for people to be in this stage. I see a lot of that, especially in the low carbohydrate community, is entering this stage and discovering your power of being able to control your health through your diet. And it's beautiful to know that you can control how you feel, your health, and your longevity by making changes to what you put in your body. And then there's stage 3. And stage 3 is where my clients live. You know, they've already mastered stage 2 and they're starting to enter, or they are navigating stage 3 by understanding that there's something deeper than diet that needs to be addressed. And stage 3 is about realizing that I can heal my body and my conditions by going deeper and healing my nervous system and my internal emotional terrain. And then just a summary of stage 4 is going even deeper than that. So once you've healed your internal world, you can start to look at healing the external world. So this realization, I can heal the world by healing myself. I understand we're all connected, and I've learned how to feel in control of my external environment by fully understanding the subtleties of my internal environment from an energetic level. And you may or may not understand that language, and that's okay. But I wanted to put that out there so that you can have awareness of all the stages, and so that you can see where you might lie. And there's no right or wrong answer here. Now, this was a slide that I had posted on Instagram. Actually, this was the motivation for me creating this particular presentation today. As you can see, this image is of an iceberg, if you didn't know what it was. A lot of people believe, in terms of managing symptoms, managing weight, managing metabolic health, that it comes down to diet, right? That's stage 2 healing. But there's so much underneath the surface, right? And that's why we want to dive deeper. And you can see some examples here, things like sleep and hormones and immune function, digestion, inflammation, emotions and stress management. These are all things that are also important to take a look at. And as you can see, the bolded word is nervous system regulation. And the reason why it's bolded is because that's the bridge. That's the bridge between all of it. All of those other things on the list, your sleep, your hormones, your digestion, they impact your nervous system regulation, and your nervous system regulation impacts your sleep, your hormones, your digestion, your inflammation, your immune function. It's all connected. And your nervous system regulation, if your nervous system isn't working optimally, it will affect all of those physiological functions. So the nervous system is at the root of your whole body physiology. And I explain all of this in detail and the science behind it in a free video that I have called Understanding Your Nervous System. And you'll learn at the end of this presentation how you can access that free video so that you can learn exactly why. Because there's so much more detail than what I have here as to understanding these pieces of the puzzle. And when you understand, that's also empowering to help you make decisions that are personalized for you and understanding why you make certain decisions. Now, this is another slide. You don't need to memorize this. I know it looks a little complicated. You can see in the middle the dark pink immune activation. This is, for example, cases of things like immune dysfunction. Conditions of immune dysfunction include autoimmunity, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue syndrome. Those are all connected through something called immune dysfunction. And so we can have the genes for conditions like autoimmunity and endometriosis. However, even if we have the gene for it, it requires a trigger in order to activate and actually show clinical manifestations or symptoms. You can see below immune activation, you can see sort of the process in terms of how the clinical manifestation actually happens, right? We've got oxidative stress, modulation of gene transcription, which causes inflammatory mediators to be released, which causes inflammation, which causes tissue injury, which causes more oxidative stress, which affects your genes even more. And it creates this huge cascade, which over time you end up developing physical symptoms, and they might be very slight at first, but as these arrows keep going and deeper into these processes of one affecting the other, those clinical manifestations become more severe. And this is why, especially with those of us with autoimmunity, we might feel off at first, but we don't have severe clinical manifestations yet that a medical doctor will be able to pick up through testing. And this is why it can take an average of 7 to 11 years to be diagnosed with an autoimmune condition or endometriosis. So it's important to understand the process so that you can take back your power, so that you don't have to sit in level 1 feeling like a victim for 7 to 11 years as you wait for your diagnosis. What's more important for you to understand are the green bubbles above. These are all triggers for immune dysfunction. And so you can see on the left, we've got pro-inflammatory diet and lifestyle, which can impact mitochondria function as well as dysbiosis. It can affect, the gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria can affect your mitochondrial function, right? And mitochondria is really important for energy production. And mitochondrial function and immune function are very closely related. We've also got on the right, we've got hormone imbalances, phenotype immunomodulation. So that has to do with your gene phenotype and genetic expression, as well as just above that is xenobiotic immunotoxicity. So that is your exposure to xenobiotics, so chemicals that can affect your immune function and your hormone function. And then at the very top, psycho-emotional and physical stressors. Now I want to point out something. This is actually really important here. Stress is a huge trigger for immune dysfunction. One study looked at adult onset autoimmune conditions. And when they interviewed those individuals, 86% of them could recount a major stressor in their life just before their symptoms started. 86%. Huge. And so stress can affect your gut flora, the bacteria in your intestines. Stress can affect how you're able to tolerate food because your stress affects your digestive function and your immune function, which I explain in greater detail in the free video, Understanding Your Nervous System. So I do suggest you check it out. And also stress affects your choices. Oftentimes when we're stressed, we have a tendency to stress eat, and we're probably not reaching for broccoli. Maybe you might be. Most people aren't. Because certain foods are going to activate certain neurotransmitters to help us feel better. And that's why we don't tend to stress eat broccoli. Stress affects your mitochondria function. Stress affects your phenotype, immunomodulation, your phenotypic expression. Stress affects your hormones. All of this comes down to your nervous system function. So if you haven't gotten the message yet, the key to diving deeper here is the nervous system. Now there's pieces that are deeper than that, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute too, but it all starts with the nervous system. It's hard to address the deeper bits than that before you address the nervous system. And so regulating emotions and the nervous system can help you to improve your digestive health. So things like reflux and heartburn can be impacted by how your nervous system is functioning and your stress and your emotions. Bloating and diarrhea and constipation and IBS, as well as irritable bowel diseases, which are autoimmune in nature, can be triggered by stress. Your whole digestive system is affected by your nervous system, and the reason for that is through the vagus nerve, which is the key nerve that's involved in your autonomic nervous system activating what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And the vagus nerve innervates all of your digestive organs. And again, I go into much greater detail about this in the video, Understanding Your Nervous System. So I suggest you go sign up for that and get it. There's no charge. Regulating emotions and regulating your nervous system can help you to reduce immune triggering for the exact reason that I just explained earlier, that it is a major trigger, right? 86% of new adult onset autoimmune symptoms were triggered by major stressors. And when your nervous system is regulated, then major stressors don't impact your physiology as badly because your nervous system is better regulated to begin with. So shocks to the system aren't as negatively impactful. Regulating your nervous system can lower inflammation, improve your tolerance to foods, because your intestinal barrier function and the associated immune function are all impacted by your nervous system function. And so when your nervous system works better, so does your intestinal barrier function. When your intestinal barrier function is in activated mode, it can react to anything, including the good bacteria in your gut. So your intestinal barrier function is supposed to typically be in a healthy situation in what's called a homeostatic state. When it's in a homeostatic state, it's able to identify what is safe. When it's in homeostatic state, your intestinal barrier function recognizes your good gut bacteria as good and not problematic. It more sees it as not problematic, so it won't react to it. And it will generally be able to recognize foods, at least most foods, as not problematic. And so that it won't, raise the alarm system that basically triggers a whole cascade of inflammatory and immune reactions, which causes food sensitivity reactions. Now, when the intestinal barrier function is an activated state, it can even react to the good bacteria in your gut. And so taking probiotics, if you haven't regulated your nervous system and your intestinal barrier function, might not necessarily work so well. And so that's why it's so important to dive deeper than just the diet and the supplements and take a look at your nervous system function. Regulating your nervous system can help you to increase energy and mental clarity. I see this all the time. Your focus and your concentration and your ability to get through the day with energy and not feeling exhausted and drained. It can help to support better hormone and neurotransmitter balance. I have so many people ask me, well, my hormones are out of balance. How do I fix that? Well, the first step actually is to regulate your nervous system. Because if your nervous system is not regulated, it affects how your hormones are being produced. And when you do get your nervous system regulated, a lot of people end up actually being able to just naturally balance their hormones. Your body wants to work. Your body wants to work properly. You just have to give it the right environment and take the pressure off your body that is impeding it from working optimally. Now, obviously, this is general information. This is not a case-by-case basis. I can't tell you exactly what your situation is for you, but in general, this is what I see. And there's so much more that improves when emotions and the nervous system are regulated. So, what can cause the nervous system to dysregulate in the first place? Now, these are just some examples. There's many more things to consider, but these are the common things that I see, especially in my own practice. Chronic and constant stress is a given. The more chronic, the more constant, the bigger pressure, the more pressure it's going to put on the nervous system. Over time, it causes what's called allostatic load and allostatic overload. And this is when physiological imbalances start to come out. The biggest culprit for chronic and constant stress isn't necessarily the stress that's going on around us, because there's always going to be stress around us. And you know what? A little bit of stress is actually beneficial. A little bit of stress in our lives actually motivates us. The biggest issue is the internal stress we put on ourselves because of our relationship with ourselves. That pressure, judgment, criticism that we put on ourselves boils down to our relationship with ourselves. And this is the thing, is it's constant. It's always there. And it's always putting pressure on the nervous system, causing building up of allostatic load and overload. Our relationship with ourselves impacts our relationships with everyone else around us, our family, our loved ones, our friends, strangers, even animals, right? Sometimes animals can pick up on what's going on in our nervous system without any words ever being exchanged. Our relationship with ourselves impacts our choices in life, what we do, our actions, and what we put up with. And it impacts all the life events that unfold in our lives. It's that important. And our relationship with ourselves affects our level of confidence, of trusting what we know is best for us, right? That inner knowing. We know the truth inside of us. And our body is always giving us messages, telling us what it needs. And we always have an inner knowing inside of us of what our truth really is. But sometimes when we don't trust ourselves, or we have a poor relationship with ourselves, we won't really trust what we know is best for us. And this can often leave us stuck in that level 1 of looking outside of ourselves, or even stuck in level 2, looking outside of it ourselves for an expert to tell us what to do, because we don't trust ourselves and our own choices. And this is an important and an interesting point, especially for anybody with any type of autoimmunity or a condition of immune dysfunction, is self-criticism or self-rejection. If you think about it, especially an autoimmune condition, is the immune system reacting and rejecting through immune reactions, is reacting to a part of ourselves and rejecting it, thinking that it's foreign. And if we are constantly emotionally rejecting ourselves and criticizing ourselves over time, that pressure on the nervous system puts pressure on the immune system. And I see This is a very common trend with my autoimmune clients of self-rejection or lack of self-acceptance, which is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to our relationship with ourselves. And I also see when that piece of the puzzle is healed, how much that can improve these conditions. So what can we do? I'm going to give you some level 2 and 3 ideas for nervous system regulation. Because the first thing before you go deeper, the first level of deeper is always to regulate the nervous system. It's hard to go even deeper than that if your nervous system is in survival mode. So let's start with some stage 2 tips, right? So stage 2, again, is regulating body physiology, especially through diet and lifestyle. And so let's start by looking at some dietary choices. And in terms of regulating the nervous system, one aspect of regulating the nervous system is improving something called vagal tone, which is based on your vagus nerve function. And again, I go into a lot more detail on this in the video, Understanding Your Nervous System. A couple of points here. The first is to keep blood sugar balanced because erratic blood sugar highs and lows, and high glycemic spikes can actually impair vagal tone. And so this is where your low carbohydrate diet is very helpful. Now, it depends on the individual and where you are in the healing process. Some people do well and fine with a moderate carbohydrate diet. Some people do well with low carb or keto, which is another level lower. And then, of course, there's the zero or very, very low carbohydrate carnivore diet. And depending on where you are in the healing cycle and what your body tells you, you might do well with one or the other, but all of those options are much better than your typical standard American diet, which is a very high carbohydrate, high glycemic diet. And that is definitely going to be impairing vagal tone. So keep your blood sugar balanced. The next point on this list is adequate protein. Always, always, always make sure that you're getting enough protein. When I get new clients in, especially women, a very common trend that I see with their dietary choices is that they're barely getting even the minimal recommended daily allowance of protein to prevent deficiency diseases. Somewhere along the lines, there's become this belief, for one reason or another, there's many different things here in terms of, maybe meat not being good for you, or that protein might cause you to gain weight, which is actually the opposite. Getting enough protein is important. And it's important for your metabolism, and it's important to help to keep you satiated so that you feel satisfied. And protein is important for neurotransmitter production, which is absolutely important for your mental health. And protein is absolutely important for so many biochemical components. And I go more into detail about protein and adequate protein. I have an online workshop called Relaxing You, where I talk about a series of tools and techniques that I guide my own clients through in their first 2 sessions with me to help them to regulate their nervous system. And adequate protein is part of that, is one piece and one tool that's included in this process. In this presentation, I show charts in terms of ideal amounts of protein, depending on your physical activity level, depending on your height and weight, all of those things. The other thing I wanted to point out, especially for those people who are on the ketogenic diet, some people believe that they need to follow the keto diet as per how it had been created in the 1920s to help children with epilepsy, which is an extremely high-fat diet. And what that means is there's actually very little protein, along with very, very, very little carbohydrate. For some people, that doesn't really work that great. Just to point out, getting enough protein is important, as well as getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. And in omega-3 fatty acids, the best source that you're going to find omega-3 fatty acids, particularly in this case, eicosapentaenoic acid, or EPA, is going to be fatty fish. And so that's going to give you some protein. And it's also going to give you this EPA, which is really important for maintaining and developing vagal tone. So the best fish, the acronym is SMASH: salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. Those are going to be really great sources of eicosapentaenoic acid for omega-3s to help you with the vagal tone. Now, there are plant-based sources of omega-3, but they are not in the form of eicosapentaenoic acid. They are in the form of ALA that need to be converted into eicosapentaenoic acid, and the conversion rate is very low, somewhere around 5%. You might be eating, say, for example, chia seeds, thinking that you're getting omega-3 fatty acids, but really you're getting very, very little. If you can tolerate fish, I suggest that you try to incorporate that in your diet. 3 times a week of those fatty fish can help you to maintain getting regular doses of omega-3 fatty acids, and particularly the eicosapentaenoic acid. And then hydration, making sure that you're drinking enough water. And I know this sounds like a no-brainer, but we need hydration for proper conduction, nerve conduction, and metabolizing of fat cells and your immune system. There's so many reasons why hydration is important. And some people just don't drink enough water. Caffeinated beverages do not count as hydration, in my opinion. Maybe other people differ. Usually what I suggest is fresh water. If you really have a hard time with fresh water, herbal teas could be a great option. But just make sure that you're getting enough hydration. So the next stage 2 tip has to do with toxins. Toxins can impair vagal tone. Here are some examples from studies that I had found when I was putting together the Relaxing You workshop. One study was looking at employees that were working in a factory that were exposed to solvents, and they were actually measuring something called heart rate variability, which is a measure of vagal tone. And they found that those that were exposed to solvents over the long term had worse vagal tone than those who were not exposed. Studies have also shown that cigarette smoking, even as little as 1 cigarette, can impair vagal tone through heart rate variability, and alcohol, as little as 1 alcoholic beverage, can impair vagal tone. Now, if you think about it this way, a lot of people will look to alcohol to relax you, but it's actually impairing your vagal tone, which actually decreases your nervous system flexibility. So you're actually not doing your nervous system a favor by drinking alcohol. So just some food for thought there. And another lifestyle stage 2 tip is get enough sleep. And it sounds simple enough, but 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep is important. And there's so many people out there who feel like maybe they can sleep when they're dead. Or, well, I'm getting 5-6 hours. I'm getting enough. That's fine. But your nervous system needs to get sleep in order to repair. If you're dealing with brain fog, if you're dealing with tiredness, if you've got digestive issues, if you're having trouble losing weight, if you've got metabolic issues, and you're giving the excuse that your 5 to 6 hours of sleep or less is fine and you can sleep when you're dead, you might die sooner. So just putting that out there. Now, I love this comic. I got this from Poorly Drawn Lines. Don't forget to drink water, so hydration. Another really great thing to help with nervous system regulation is to help your circadian rhythm. This also goes with sleep by getting sunlight during the daytime. And so it says you're basically a houseplant with more complicated emotions. And this also brings me to stage 3 tips, because stage 3 is all about emotions and nervous system regulation. Stage 2 was maintaining the houseplant, right? Like the nutrients and the diet and the water and the sunlight. But then we've got these emotions. And so let's talk about some stage 3 tips. Now, stage 3, as we talked about, looks at nervous system regulation and looking at your inner emotional terrain, particularly your relationship with yourself. But I always start by looking at the nervous system regulation tools first, because it's harder to dive deeper if your nervous system is dysregulated. If you're in fight or flight mode, if you're in dorsal vagal mode, or if you're in sympathetic nervous system mode, which are dysregulated modes, if you're stuck there. And again, I explain more about that in the free video, Understanding Your Nervous System. So if you're stuck there, it's going to be really hard to take a look at your inner emotional terrain. You need to regulate your nervous system first. Here are a couple of really basic preliminary suggestions. Deep breathing. If you're going to do anything on this list, deep breathing is it. When you take slow, deep breaths down to the base of your lungs and your diaphragm stretches, that helps you to start to teach your nervous system to switch into your ventral vagal aspect of your parasympathetic nervous system through stretch receptors in your lungs and your diaphragm. And so deep breathing, any form of deep breathing can be helpful. I particularly find alternate nostril breathing to be helpful with my clients, and as well, Andrew Huberman, he suggests something called the physiological sigh. Definitely suggest checking out Andrew Huberman, especially if you like nervous system stuff. He's got lots of amazing information. Some other things to consider are mindfulness. So mindfulness is the practice of refocusing your thoughts and attention to the present moment and what's going on now, as opposed to being lost in your thoughts and focusing on future events, on what ifs and worries, or lamenting about the past and things that have happened in the past. Being able to train your mind, much like a muscle, to refocus yourself into the present moment, because the present is the only moment you ever have control over with your actions. And studies show that being able to focus in on the present moment, it's helpful for nervous system regulation. It's helpful for trauma treatment. It's also helpful for preventing post-traumatic stress disorder. And actually, the Navy SEALs uses mindfulness in their training to prevent post-traumatic injuries. Meditation is another option. There's mindfulness meditation. There's other types of meditation. I often find, though, that a lot of people have a hard time starting with meditation. When the nervous system is not well regulated, it can actually be really hard to sit in meditation. Now, mindfulness does include meditation, but there are other tools and ways that you can practice mindfulness, and I usually start with those other ways before looking at meditation, because it can be so hard to do when your nervous system isn't well regulated. And spending time in nature, even 10 minutes in nature, can be really helpful to start to attune yourself and regulate your nervous system. So that's a really easy thing you can do. There's so much more, but I just wanted to give you a really brief overview. I talk about a lot more tools and tricks in terms of nervous system regulation in my workshop, Relaxing You, along with scientific studies to back up each one, and then directions and instructions, and I guide you through it all. Now, once you've regulated your nervous system, then we can start to heal the roots of why your nervous system isn't balanced in the first place. Like I mentioned before, one really big emotional root is that relationship with yourself. Beliefs about yourself, how you talk to yourself and treat yourself, the level of self-respect, love, and acceptance that you have, your ability to recognize and stand up for yourself and your needs, and healthy boundaries with yourself and with others. So being able to recognize where your limits are, stand up for those limits, and understand what behavior towards yourself and from other people are acceptable and not acceptable, and what you're willing to put up with and not put up with. Now, I want to make an important point here about where your relationship with yourself started. It started in your developmental years, before the age of 8, usually, and even younger than that. And your relationship with yourself was developed with the influence of how you were particularly able to bond or not bond with the people around you, particularly your primary caregivers, which for most people would be their parents. Especially during our developmental years, we need to feel safe, secure, and accepted. These are the very primary roots of the things that we need in order to achieve proper development. From a survival aspect, it makes sense. We need to feel secure. We need to feel safe. And we need to feel accepted, because if you think about it, if we weren't accepted in our tribe, it was really hard to survive on our own. And so it's ingrained into us to need to be accepted so that we're not rejected from the tribe. So a lot of this comes down to what you were exposed to, the situations that you experienced, the behaviors that were modeled to you, how your parents were able to attune to you and how you were able to attune to your parents. So that means what the state of your parents or primary caregivers' nervous system was like. Were they regulated? If their nervous system was dysregulated, it's going to be really hard for them to properly attune to you and help you feel safe and secure. Oftentimes, their nervous system was dysregulated because of what they were exposed to in their developmental years, which affected their relationship with themselves. It's passed down from generation to generation. And what happens is, depending on what you're exposed to, the examples that you see around you, you adjust your behavior in order to make sure that you feel safe and secure. Especially if your parents did have nervous system dysregulation and you didn't feel safe and secure, you're going to adjust what you're doing, what you're saying, the actions that you take to try to either make yourself feel secure or to influence your external environment in order to get the thing that you need to feel safe and secure and accepted. Whether it be figuring out that certain actions get people to do or say different things that will help you to feel safe and secure and accepted, or to prevent people from responding in a certain way so that you don't feel rejected or unsafe. These are the things that we learn during our developmental years. We're not even thinking about them. We're not conscious of this. This is just happening. And we can develop coping mechanisms to try to get us through. So things like people pleasing, for example, doing whatever it takes to try to make sure everyone around us is happy so that they're not upset with us, so that we don't feel unsafe. Perfectionism. If we can just get it perfect, maybe the people around us will be happy with us, and then we can feel accepted. Self-sabotage. We keep getting in our own way from doing the things, but really deep down, it's because we're afraid of failing, and if we fail, then we don't feel safe. So our subconscious prevents us from doing it in the first place. These are just a few examples. There's so many more. Now, here's the thing is we can't change the past. We can't change how we were raised. We can't change what we were exposed to during our developmental years. But what we can change is our relationship with ourselves, how we interact with ourselves now, how we treat ourselves now, how we talk to ourselves now. We can start to change our beliefs about ourselves and our perspective about ourselves. We can start to learn how to develop healthy boundaries with ourselves and others. All of this is possible, and it changes lives, truly. Now, the first step is awareness. Awareness is always the first step because you can't change what you can't see. Just starting to become aware of how you talk to yourself, your relationship with yourself, how much pressure you put on yourself, how often you criticize yourself. You might be surprised what you notice. But then the key is to have loving compassion with yourself. Noticing that you're hard on yourself and you put pressure on yourself, and then so you notice this and then you're hard on yourself for being hard on yourself, it doesn't help. The reason you're hard on yourself is for a reason. The reason why you've had these things about your inner relationship with yourself is everything that you've done up until this point was to try to survive, try to feel safe, try to feel secure, try to feel accepted. You were just trying to fulfill your needs so that you could survive to this point now. And you did. You're here. And that's beautiful. And give yourself a pat on the back for that. And so that's loving compassion. Thanking yourself for getting through to where you are now. And then you can go deeper. You can start to heal your relationship with yourself so that you can transform your life. And so I want to show you a couple of examples from other people so that you understand how important it is to dive deeper and do this work and regulate your nervous system and heal your relationship with yourself and heal your emotions. So it's not just me talking and you thinking maybe I'm just blowing smoke and it's just something that I made up. I want you to see other people's responses. So on this particular page, I've just copied and pasted some screenshots from things that I've taken off of posts that I've made. This first one, I had posted something about regulating the nervous system on my Facebook page. And one of my current clients actually wrote this. She said, I am experiencing firsthand how Michelle Dowker's program helps with stress and regulating the nervous system. It's a life-changing experience. And by this point, she's only at the beginning of this program, and she's already finding it to be a life-changing experience. Somebody else had made a comment, and I replied back and said, I'm so proud of you and the work you've accomplished and what you've been able to realize. And she said, me too. Seriously been life-changing. It's not me using these words, life-changing. That's the reason why I use life-changing now, because people keep telling me that it's life-changing. This was taken from Instagram. I think this was in a reply to somebody else who had asked a question on my feed. And she said, Michelle is amazing. I'm 39 and own a library of inspirational, motivational, and spiritual self-help books. I thought I had my baggage unpacked and it was the physiological holding me back. Michelle helped me physiologically, but was also astute enough to pinpoint where I needed help emotionally. I'm so grateful because I may have continued my self-destructive behavior subconsciously and also carrying the burden of the thoughts driving those behaviors. So going back to, again, remember how I mentioned like self-sabotage, where it came from, right? It's a survival mechanism. And once you can see that and you start to change your relationship with yourself, it changes. And then on Twitter, I'd posted, my client today reflecting on her progress with me said, I focused so much on what I was eating, I never stopped to even think that it might be all the emotions I've never dealt with or not being connected with myself. I really do think that that was my missing piece of the puzzle. And one of my previous clients that I worked with commented on this and said this, even though I had myself figured all out, what a huge difference working with you has made, and I could never thank you enough for setting me on that path. Now that lights me up to see that I'm helping people change their lives, but really they're helping themselves. They're healing their relationship with themselves, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. And I hope that today, as I'm talking through this information, that it might be a missing piece of your puzzle and that you can take this information, whether it's with me, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's on your own, that you take this information and dive deeper so you can also get these life-changing experiences. Now, one of my previous clients said, I had cut out everything besides meat and desperately wanted to introduce back whole foods, but I had no idea how to start. I had tried reintroduction on my own but lacked guidance, and it always landed me in a worse state than when I had started when I was on the carnivore diet. Quickly, I learned through our sessions that it was much deeper than just food. Michelle listened to my concerns and worked with me every session to help me regain my health. She helped me regain the confidence and self-love that I was searching for. If I hadn't started working with Michelle, I'd still be thinking I was allergic to every food besides meat. Now my mental and physical health is improving day by day. And I wanted to include this quote just to show and emphasize how much it goes beyond just diet. While diet is important, there's so many other layers that will get you so much deeper results than just diet alone. Now, if you've enjoyed this presentation and you want some more information, more guidance, more tips, and you want to hear more about what I have to say, there's 3 different options you can choose from. So the first one is a free option. So I mentioned in this presentation the free video, Understanding Your Nervous System, where you can learn how the nervous system works, how it impacts symptoms like fatigue, digestive problems, autoimmunity, endometriosis, and even food sensitivities. Now, since I've recorded this presentation, I've actually included Understanding Your Nervous System along with a whole bunch of other presentations in my free information vault. So you'll get access to this as well as many other sources and resources, my top resources that people have loved and send me emails about all the time telling me how much they found it helpful. So you can sign up for the free resource vault and you'll find Understanding Your Nervous System in the resource vault. Now there's also the Relaxing You online course, and this is where you can learn tools I teach my own clients during their first 2 sessions with me to start regulating your nervous system function, quiet down physical symptoms, create calm, and improve your mental focus. So not only do I talk about nervous system regulation, but I give you practical tools that I teach my own clients to get you started on the road. And then I have an 8-month one-on-one intensive called The Remedy Within. And so this goes much deeper than nervous system regulation. This goes to awakening your inner healer so that you can experience life-changing, next-level results in every aspect of your life, not just your health, but your relationships, your purpose, your career, and everything else in between. So this 8-month intensive is by application only. It's for the person that's ready for it. So I want to make sure that you're fit for the program, and I want you to make sure that I'm a fit for you, because it is an extensive 8-month program, and it is a commitment. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable with it, and I want to make sure that you're ready for the commitment as well. And when you're ready, it changes lives. So I'll give you a bit of an overview about this program called The Remedy Within. So it's a powerful healing approach for women with chronic illness who've tried all the diets, supplements, and therapy to release what's holding you back and to unleash your inner healer when everything else that you've tried hasn't worked. This is the route that will transform your life. And so I'll just give you a bit of an overview of the journey through the 8-month program of The Remedy Within. So step 1 or phase 1 is nervous system regulation. So before we can do anything else, it's really important to teach your nervous system that it's now safe, provide moments of calm, and improve nervous system flexibility so that you'll be able to take in the rest of the information in the program and make the shifts more quickly, easily, and sustainably. This nervous system regulation creates a strong foundation for everything else to build on, and that's why it's first and very important. And just to mention, the Relaxing You workshop that I mentioned on the last page involves many of the techniques that I teach in phase 1 of this 7-phase system. Now, phase 2 of the Remedy Within 8-month intensive is meeting yourself. So you discover who you really are on the inside and uncover your true needs and desires. You find out what you've really wanted all along, and you might be surprised what you uncover. It's really an eye-opening process, and it might surprise you what you find. And a lot of people come to the realization that they never really knew who they really are on the inside. And through this process, they really get to know who that is. And that's a beautiful and an empowering process. Now, continuing on, phase 3 of the Remedy Within is connecting the dots, putting the pieces of your personal and health journey puzzles together so you can see and understand the layers of conditioning that have impacted your beliefs, emotions, and behaviors, and how it's all affected your health in the present. So I have a special talent to sleuth out and help you see the things that have been hidden from view. So the things that you can't necessarily see on your own. And seeing these connections really delivers these light bulb aha moments of life-changing clarity that really start to make a difference and start to really light up and spark the transformation process, that inner paradigm shift when you start to see things differently, when you get these aha moments of life-changing clarity. Now, when I say I have this special talent to sleuth out these things that have been hidden from view, it's really hard for us to see our own blind spots. Even I can't see my own blind spots, right? It's kind of like if you're lost in the forest amongst the trees and you're trying to see your way out. It can be really hard to see which direction to go and where you are in the forest when you're stuck amongst the trees. And so having somebody else to be able to actually see where you are and give you direction and give you insight so that you can actually see the things that you can't see on your own. This is what starts to spark that life-changing transformation. And then the next step is what I call social unconditioning. So shedding those layers of conditioning that have been keeping you stuck. So social conditioning are the belief systems that I've talked about that we start to build during those developmental years that are often holding us back from what we really want. If you can uncondition from these beliefs and create more productive ones that make your soul sing, and up-level your inner narrative. So all of that talk that's going on in your head to yourself and about yourself, when you up-level that, you optimize your life. I provide personalized techniques, supportive guidance, valuable insight to help you through this process. And when you go through this process, you feel lighter and freer in your body, your mind, and your soul. And then Phase 5 is healing your relationship with yourself. Once you see how all the dots connect and you uncondition yourself from all those external beliefs that are no longer serving you, this sets the stage for you to develop deep, compassionate love, trust, and acceptance of yourself. You come to realize just how magnificent you truly are, and it changes everything. This is really what helps to bind in that paradigm shift that awakens your inner healer so that you can find your remedy within when everything you've tried externally hasn't been working for you. And then finally, the last 2 steps are the most beautiful. So phase 6 in this 8-month process is calibrating your inner compass. You explore how you truly want your health, relationships, career, purpose, and entire life to unfold now and going forward. Now that you've stepped out of the survival mode and now you're into full thriving mode, because so many of us, when we're stuck in survival mode, we're not really thinking about what we actually truly want in our lives. We're just trying to get by. Once you step into full thriving mode, then you can really explore what it is you truly want and where your own personal true north is. And you design your own unique blueprint for that life so that you can create the present and the future that you really want and truly desire. And you calibrate what I call your inner compass to your own personal true north. This is how you find your own way, not only now, but going forward for the rest of your life. When your own inner compass is calibrated and you know what your own personal true north is, then you know you'll always have the answers within yourself. And then phase 7 of the 8-month process is skyrocketing your potential. Once you've done all this other work, you magnify and grow your inner potential and purpose. You step into the life you're truly meant for, and you watch not only your well-being and your health and your symptoms, but your relationships, your career, and your entire life catapult in ways that you've never imagined. I see it all the time. You'll observe with pride and awe what you've been able to accomplish during the intensive and celebrate with excitement how your life is now unfolding. It's a beautiful process. It's like stepping out of the cocoon and flying in your full power as a beautiful butterfly. And when you find that change within yourself, when you heal these emotional roots, you liberate your inner healer, then everything finally falls into place. It's the root that really transforms your life. It transforms your life beyond what diet and supplements can do. And this is why I call this your remedy within. Instead of searching for that remedy outside, you find it within yourself, and that's how you get those next level results. Hannah went through this program and said, the positive changes I've experienced by doing this work with Michelle has honestly been life-changing. So there's that life-changing again. I was shocked to see how many of my physical symptoms improve with emotional healing work alone. Michelle made me feel completely safe and understood. She's a very warm and comforting presence, and I could tell she genuinely cared. She put so much effort into her sessions, and each one felt incredibly productive. Now I feel amazing. I feel healthy for the first time in my life. Finally, after years of battling health issues and getting nowhere, I have answers and a way forward. And Louisa said about the program, after working with Michelle, everything about me changed. She guided me towards a way of thinking that relieved emotional burdens that I've been carrying for years. Now I feel lighter and energetic. I enjoyed the depth of Michelle's knowledge, and she was always prepared and always listened without judging. She provided tools that allowed me to heal without requiring her presence all the time, and that means healing can continue long after the person has done the program. And I want others to know that this program is life-changing. So another person that said that this is life-changing, if you haven't gotten the message yet, that doing this work is life-changing beyond what diet and supplements can provide. And these individuals and so many others also tell me that this type of approach goes deeper and has been way more effective than therapy and counseling. Natalie said, I don't know what would have made this program better. It was better than I expected. I didn't think it was possible to make that much progress in such a short time. After working together, I feel more at peace with myself. I feel safer, more in control, an internal glow, happiness, and confidence. I learned to trust myself, believe myself, and actually love and respect myself. And I've found faith in the world again. I no longer feel like I'm fighting my way through life. I don't chase outcomes. I let them come to me, and it's liberating. I'm very sensitive, and I felt openness and acceptance at every turn, and like she genuinely cared. She helped me feel seen, heard, and safe. And this last paragraph is something I actually hear from all of my clients. Most of them resonate with empath, highly sensitive person, or neurodivergent, and all of them are very sensitive individuals, just like me. And they all tell me how safe they feel with me, how they don't feel judged, how they can genuinely feel that I truly care for their situation and for helping them. And finally, Amanda says, my life has changed completely and all for the better. Nearly all my symptoms have disappeared, but most importantly, I've changed on an emotional level. I've made huge strides professionally and personally since working with Michelle. I now feel as though I'm who I always intended to be, the best version of me, someone who's in control and more at peace than I've felt in years. Michelle helped me heal from the inside out. This program is the kindest thing I've done for myself. And all of these testimonials absolutely light me up, and I always shed a tear whenever I read them, whenever they send them to me. I have many more where these came from. You can check them out if you go to theremedywithin.com. Again, this is a powerful healing approach for women with mystery symptoms, chronic illness, and or those who resonate with highly sensitive person, empath, or neurodivergent. And they've tried all the diets, all the supplements, and even counseling and therapy. And they know that there is a layer deeper in terms of inner emotional healing. And this program releases what's holding you back so that you can unleash and awaken your inner healer and find your remedy within. Now, how you can access all the options that I've talked about today. So you can go to wellbalance.ca and you'll find the sign up to grab the free information vault. You'll find access to the Relaxing You online workshop where you can get the techniques that I teach in the first 2 sessions with my clients to relax their nervous system and regulate their nervous system. You can also find the remedy within at wellbalance.ca, or you can also go to theremedywithin.com and you can find the same information there. You can also send me an email, Michelle at wellbalance.ca. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask, especially if you've gone through this presentation and you have questions about it. And if you want to email me and let me know what kind of insights that you got from this presentation, I'd love to hear when people get those aha moments. It lights me up to know that I've helped someone see another piece of their puzzle. So please feel free and send me an email if you want to let me know. And you can also find me on Instagram at wellbalanceND. ND like Naturopathic Doctor. You can send me a DM there as well if you want to let me know what kind of insights you got from this presentation. And as well, if you wanted to learn more about the 8-month intensive, The Remedy Within, I'm happy to chat with you about it. I'll be inviting you to apply for The Remedy Within. You can fill out the application form at theremedywithin.com, and that'll help me better understand your situation to see if you're fit. And then what happens is if you qualify through the application process, we'll set up a free chat together and you can ask me questions, get to know me, and I can get to know you better, and we can decide together if the program is the best fit for you. So, did you get some insight on diving deeper than diet to get those next level results? I hope that you learned some things today that were helpful for you. The biggest takeaway here is looking at the nervous system, making sure that that's addressed, and then looking deeper to understand what dysregulated the nervous system in the first place, particularly your relationship with yourself, and what affected your relationship with yourself, and most importantly, how you can heal your relationship with you now and going forward, which will help you to regulate your nervous system now and going forward, which will help you to get better results with your physical symptoms now and going forward. Thank you so much for watching this presentation today and for being here with me and taking the time out of your busy schedule to go through this whole presentation with me. I hope that it gave you some valuable insight that you can use in your life so that you can get that next level healing results as well, past what just diet can do. I'd love to hear from you, whether you're interested in my personal help or whether you just want to let me know what type of insights you got from this presentation. I'd love to hear. Take care.